It's a pleasure to welcome Elwood Webb here to our version of our stories. And this is occurring on Tuesday, October 30th. Could you please tell us about your military experience in World War II?
Yeah, I enlisted in 1942 and there in the armories. I went into the armories and Dr. Bill Lilly was our family doctor. He looked at me and he says, "Elwood, what are you doing here?" Well, I said, "I got my army call." He said, "Well, I'll give you a few minutes to think about it because your dad went through the first war, you know how much he suffered." He says, "You sure you want to go?" I said, "Well, I got my army call. I guess it's my duty to go in the army." So he said, "Well, that's your decision." So that's fine. So I went down to the exhibition grounds in Stroud, got my uniform there, stayed there for about, I think pretty close to 2 months because 1942 there was a terrible snowstorm in Stroud. So they took us in army trucks out to the corner of Bloor and Yonge Street and dig out the streetcar tracks for the streetcars to get going again. Then from there I went to Brantford, Ontario, took basic training there for 8 weeks and finished there. And about a week after that, I came by train to Camp Borden. I was in Camp Borden for a year and a half, been there 2 years. And then I went overseas, got the train in the Barrie Station, which is not there anymore, and went to Halifax, got the Ile France boat, which was the third largest boat in the world at that time. Sailed to Greenock, Scotland. There was 18,000 troops on that boat. You couldn't even get in the washroom because everything was in there, everybody was seasick. So we got to Greenock, Scotland, and the boat had so much water they couldn't go into the dock, so they had to sit out in the ocean there. Docked there, and different smaller crafts came out and unloaded us, load after load. Came down the train to Aldershot in southern England. I was there for about a week, and I was transferred to the Lincoln and Walton Regiment, which was in Crowborough, England. And we stayed there and trained there until D-Day happened. And then about about one month and a half after D-Day, it was our turn to go to Normandy. We went by truck back to London, England, on the Thames River, and sailed down to Isle of Wight. Stayed at Isle of Wight. It was too rough to go to Normandy. We stayed there for 3 days. Then the water settled down and we sailed in landing crafts to Normandy. We landed there. Took all day to get the whole regiment there, where there was 810 men. And we stayed on the beach for that 24 hours. And then we walked to a place called Bergamus in France, which was about 32 miles. We walked in groups of 3. The reason for that, if a bomb hit us, they'd only get the 1/3 of us. Then I was at Bergamus, and then joined the regiment. We relieved the Queen's Own Rifles in the front, which was badly wounded and killed at the Normandy. From there we went, first night out no man's land, in a wheat field, and the Germans opened up on us. We all hit the ground. Major Fisher, he was like a father. He was a school teacher down in St. Catharines. So he had to make sure that everybody got covered, and he got killed. And I was laying on the ground there, the heads of wheat were falling on my back, so that's pretty close. Then we got word to go back to Burgos, which is about a half a mile away. And we stayed there from then on and trained and went on from there all through France in a place called, first of all, we went to get dancing through Falaise Gap. We took, four of us took 1,200 prisoners in one day. From there on, we traveled up to the Seine River. We had to go through fields because the road going to the Seine River was full of dead horses and cattle and everything else. The Air Force had strapped it, killed everything that was there. The Germans couldn't retreat. And from there, we crossed the Seine River and went up on Hill 88, and that's when I was wounded in my right leg, right arm. And they picked me up in a stretcher on a Jeep, brought me back to the Seine River, slid me down the bank to a small boat, got in the boat, and I was kind of looking around, and the boat turned around and go, we got to cross the Seine River. The guy looked at me and said, "Is that you, Elwood?" And I said, "Yeah." And I looked and I said, "Is that you, Don?" He said, "Yes." It was Don Beatty from Innisfil, which was quite a
Coincidence.
yeah. And then I was 5 days from the time I was wounded till I got back to Normandy Beach, to a great big tent hospital. We had about 7 nurses bath me once because I was the first patient in it. Then I just got into bed. I think I got my first shot of penicillin, but I had over 400 shots of penicillin every 3 hours, 24 hours a day to kill the poison in my body. And then the next guy came in, I looked at him and said, "Is that you, Ernie?" He said, "Yes." And he looked at me and said, "Is that you, Elwood?" I said, "Yes." And Ernie Aikens out the 12th line. He had a bullet right through his shoulder there.
And he did not live, did he, Elwood?
He was killed on about 13 days before the end of the war in Germany. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much on behalf of citizens of Innisfil and everywhere for being the man you were then and the man you are now. You told me that you were going to be, that you turned 89 this month, so that is tremendously remarkable.
Yeah.